Hello, everybody. Welcome to this edition of the River Street Podcast number 18, with your host, as always, Preston Olson. Now, the first thing I'm going to get into today, sort of an opening monologue, is me blowing up the minimum wage argument. Now, I want to start with saying you can live on minimum wage if you live in the middle of nowhere. You also might have to be single and work for a while until you are a little more comfortable to be on the safe side. What I will say is the $15 minimum wage argument is preposterous. We need to find common ground. The national minimum wage is $7.25 an hour. In my home state of Illinois, it is $8.25 an hour. You should want to make more than the minimum wage to begin with. What blows my mind is the corporations that have an abundance of capital and won't cough up a few extra bucks from the ongoing demand of inflation. The cost of living continues to rise, and the minimum wage does not. Our Board of Trade has been dismal, and the corporations having to pay a 35% tariff on money brought back to the shores of America is not right. On a federal level, the call has been on President Trump to put the right people in place and put the right people in place to fix America downtrodden Board of Trade. And it has been happening. Illegal immigration is a huge threat to the minimum wage as well, and is slowly but surely getting better. As the reports begin to pile on the statistics of all immigration, we still wonder about the minimum wage. I say in Illinois, the way things are going, a pickup in the nation economy, we need to at least have a $10.75 minimum wage. $10.75 minimum wage. It is not much to ask for people to get a hand up that are already working on starting that new job. We all should hope that people, meaning corporations and the bosses, pay more than a minimum wage, because costs at the grocery store, gas pump, and necessity items keep rising. The working man and woman's wage has not risen in a majority of states. Moving on to the next topic, folks, we're going to talk about the budget in Springfield. Yeah, that's right, the budget we still don't have. Now, the Illinois General Assembly is about to go on vacation. Yeah, good for them. To the governor's credit, there was not a budget put in front of him to sign. You can't blame Governor Bruce Rauner when you can't even put a budget on his desk. Are you kidding me? Third year in a row. Now, this is the second year in a row, but this will be the third year continuance that we're operating without a balanced budget. Ridiculous. Totally irresponsible. And if it were me or you folks, we'd be out. We wouldn't have a job. We'd be in the unemployment line, and then we'd have to fight for the unemployment. Now we're going to get off the downtrodden, and we're going to get into something really cool here. Illinois Knife Rights Group putting legislation forward so we can conceal and carry a switchblade. That's right, conceal and carry a switchblade. Be on the lookout for that. This is a big deal. It hasn't been talked about enough. It's not going to get a lot of press because of the budget stalemate. But I will tell you that we can't conceal and carry in Chicago anything. So you might as well be able to conceal and carry a switchblade outside of Chicago, especially if you live in the surrounding counties of Cook. Now, the Washington Post paper is putting pressure on Jared Kushner, claiming he wanted to set up a back channel with Russia after Donald Trump was elected. Notice how that's beginning to fade away. I seen it pop up over the weekend. On Monday, it was the hottest thing to talk about. By Friday, okay, now we're on Friday, you're barely hearing about this. It's not a big deal anymore. They're starting to back off of it as if they didn't report it. And I'm speaking about the Washington Post, who I like the Washington Post, but I just don't understand why it feels like the news media tries to pick off people in Donald Trump's administration. And I'm not saying don't tell the truth. If there's a back channel with Russia that Jared Kushner set up, we need to know about that absolutely, 100%. And then we'll go ahead with punishment. What's the severity of the issue reflected on the punishment? But there's nothing concrete that shows any type of evidence that this is an actual deal. Like this happened. This did not happen. Because if it did, why are we just hearing about it now? Past 100 days into his presidency. So I really feel like it's a drive-by, kind of just let's hit him up type of deal. And, just to keep fuel on the fire for the already very leftist media to continue their spectacle about putting pressure on Trump and his administration. Look, folks, if this is real, like I said, we need to know about it. But the Washington Post, with stories like this, to me, they lose more credibility every time they let something like this fly. So we're going to move off of that, and we're going to get into some sports, which I love talking about. UFC Stockholm. All right, everybody's seen this Sunday. Gustafsson knocks out Teixeira in round 5. He will have his shot at the light heavyweight title again. He has to, no doubt about it. He is the most deserving individual in the light heavyweight division of a title shot. Give him his title shot. He earned it. Did you see how he went out there and fought? Besides the running away and turning his back, look, if you're going to turn your back in a fight, then you are taking a huge risk. So every time he does that, let's not leave out that part of it, that he's taking a huge risk when he turns his back. Now, Teixeira had opportunities to land punches, throw combos, and be a lot more flush in his sequences. It just didn't pan out that way. And Teixeira, as great of a striker as he is, he did not look all there against Gustafsson. It kind of makes you wonder where he's at on a fighting level. But he did have a lot of heart, stayed in it until the end, but he really took a beating. He took a beating from round 1 until round 5 when he fell out after 3 uppercuts and a solid right hand. It put him out. And, really, it was getting ugly in the 3rd and 4th round. Teixeira would fight back a little bit, but Gustafsson was his ability to move in the cage. In that octagon, his ability to move in there, ridiculous. I mean, he can move all over the freaking place, and it's hard to touch him. So when you do touch him, you got to make your shots count. Teixeira did land some blows and some good shots, but definitely not even close to enough because Gustafsson, I mean, just look how hard the guy's head is. Don't take away anything from Teixeira and how hard his head is because he took some licks. But just look at Gustafsson, right? Look at him and just look at him for what he is. A great fighter, a person who's never held the light heavyweight title, and he wants it bad. He wants it so bad. I mean, I would have joy seeing him win it, but he's got to go and earn it. And it's not going to be an easy scenario, fighting John Jones or fighting Daniel Cormier. Now, we're moving into NASCAR, and we all love talking about NASCAR. Now, the NASCAR winner at the Coca-Cola 6, the big old Coca-Cola 600 now, that's Austin Dillon in the Chevy. 2nd place, Kyle Busch. And rounding out the top 3, Martin Truex Jr. Martin Truex Jr. is awesome, man. What a great dude. And Austin Dillon, I did not really understand how well-spoken Austin Dillon is. I mean, he gets up to the microphone and he owns it. He's living in that moment, very Jimmy Johnson-esque, in the fact that he's just, it's my time to shine, I'm going to shine, and I'm going to make everything I say matter. And that is Austin Dillon to me. Not only am I going to, kick ass in this race right here, I'm going to get out of the car and then go on, the NASCAR Racing Hub on Fox Sports 1, FS1. And he goes on there, well-spoken, well-maintained, $1 million beard, and he's just got all the right things to say. What a great image for NASCAR. If you're not behind Austin Dillon or something as a racing fan, you don't like Austin Dillon. I mean, he grew on me because I knew he was there. It's like you can't, I see all these guys racing. You see all their numbers, the cars are, you see them all there. They're there. But how he kind of grew on me, and I think he's growing on NASCAR in general, is just like, wow, this dude is the real deal. I mean, damn near a spokesperson for NASCAR. So, great job at the Coca-Cola 600, Austin Dillon, representing the Chevy very well. A lot of my friends, big Chevy heads, they love Chevy. So, anytime someone in a Chevy wins, no matter who it is, even if it's not their favorite racer, all love. It's all love. Now, Golden State versus the Cleveland Cavaliers last night. Just a sad game. A really sad game. You kind of seen that LeBron was playing good, not great. But outside of the Cavaliers' big three, and I'm talking about Kyrie Irving, LeBron James, Kevin Love, okay, outside of this big three, and we all know Tristan Thompson's there, where's the help, right? First points of the game scored by J.R. Smith. He hits a three. It was a big shot. Someone was closing out on him as he hit it. It was a really nice shot. The Cavaliers were looking very comfortable early on, trying to take the crowd out of it. Really hard to do when you're playing at the Oracle. Golden State is that good. They are that good. Cleveland is just as good as Golden State. So to me, there's no debate on Golden State being more loaded than Cleveland, because to me it's damn near equal. It's really damn near equal. And I have to look at it not only as what the principle is, but the substance underneath the principle. And that, to me, is the role players on the Cavaliers have to step up and start commanding the floor better if they're going to have a shot or an opportunity to beat Golden State. It can go either way, but to me, I really feel like Golden State was going to win game one, especially on their own home floor, coming out refreshed, being at home the night before, the whole weeks leading up to this game. I think they've had Cleveland on their mind a lot longer than Cleveland has been able to have Golden State on their mind. And that's because of just Golden State being able to walk through the playoffs. Cleveland basically walked through the playoffs. The one mishap against Boston where they really let the future kind of take a hold of them in that series, I think, and they were just looking at, hey, we're going. We know we're going. Isaiah Thomas on the Boston Celtics or not. Cleveland knew they were going to play Golden State, and they knew it. Deep down, all those guys do. Not to say Boston's a bad team, but just if you go back and watch the series, I mean, Cleveland really did decimate Boston, and it makes you kind of look at basketball in the playoffs a little bit different to, hey, we're in the Eastern Conference Finals. I mean, we've seen the Pacers and the Bulls go the distance with the Cavaliers or the Heat when LeBron was on the Miami Heat. We've seen them go the distance when LeBron had a stacked team. So to me, that was disappointing to watch Boston not be able to keep up with Cleveland. But now we're focused on Cleveland, Golden State. Golden State trounces everybody they play in the playoffs. I mean, no one even has a shot to beat them. The Utah Jazz are not going to beat Golden State in a series of 7, in a series of 3, okay? It's just not going to happen. Not with that Utah Jazz team, with all due respect. And I really do think that Golden State has a great opportunity in front of them with Kevin Durant to run the table and win this series. But I'm going to make a bold prediction. Cleveland Cavaliers in 5 games. The next 4 go to Cleveland. You're going to look at me like I'm crazy. I'm going to get hate mail. It's okay. It's my opinion. And based on what I've seen and the evidence that's there, I'm not as high on the Golden State Warriors as a lot of other people in the media, as a lot of other people in Vegas. The odds makers obviously want Golden State to win. It's so much easier that way. They're very much loaded. But the Cleveland Cavaliers are a better three-point shooting team, believe it or not. From the top down. I'm looking at the roster as a whole. The Cleveland Cavaliers are a better three-point shooting team, and they're a better shooting team. And when it comes down to it, the Cleveland Cavaliers, especially at home, will be able to win. And they will be able to win on the road against Golden State. LeBron does not forget that Golden State finished the Cleveland Cavaliers off on their home floor at the Cleveland Cavaliers arena. LeBron doesn't forget that stuff. I don't really think he's ever forgotten that he lost to these guys, right? Minus Kevin Durant, a few other players, minus these guys. But Golden State put the nail in the coffin. Not only did they beat Cleveland Cavaliers on their own floor to finish that series off, win their championship, give Steph Curry his first ring, Klay Thompson his first ring, Draymond Green his first ring. Steve Kerr gets the ring, for being the coach. And I really think that LeBron, even though they just beat Golden State last season, to me, there's still that bad blood that I didn't forget. I haven't forgot, and I won't forget, because that's my motivation. And look, we all can't get in LeBron James' head. We can't get in anybody's head, for that matter. But if I'm looking at the game for what it is, and I'm watching every game of the playoffs that I possibly can, I've watched every game, and I've dissected it after the game, I have to just have confidence in LeBron, just for who he is, what he does, and what he represents. To me, he's a champion. He's a leader. No matter how bad they lose in a game one, even a game two, let's say it goes all 7 games. Even in a game two, LeBron is going to rally these guys, and he's going to get them back to earth. Hey, you lost. It's the NBA Finals. We're here. All season long, the goal was to get here. Now we have to win. And I think LeBron will shake up the locker room that way. Kyrie Irving is sensational. Kevin Love is playing physical. Tristan Thompson, if he comes along, man, big four right there. The big four right there. And that's enough to put away these Golden State Warriors, especially their dependence on the jump shot. So, moving on to some White Sox talk. Disappointing the last 2 games. The White Sox dropped to the Boston Red Sox after beating them once in the series. They lose the series to the Red Sox. Right now playing Detroit. Looking good. Cabrera had a double. And, the game's progressing very well right now. So we'll see what happens. A lot of good things with the White Sox are happening. Their pitching looks great. Everybody on the roster that is a hitter is starting to find their rhythm. And, we're over the first quarter of the season. We're past the first quarter of the season. So we're into that mix now where you either have it or you don't. And to me, it seems like they will have a fighting shot to come in first or second in the division as long as they continue to keep the bats alive, minimize the errors, and the pitching has to be solid. It doesn't have to be great, but it has to be solid enough to not allow so many runs to teams like the Boston Red Sox, like the Yankees, like the Cubs, like these other teams they're going to play against that are just good scoring teams. They put up a lot of numbers. You're going to have to deal with that when you see the Houston Astros. You're going to have to deal with that when you see the Texas Rangers. You're going to see these teams, and they're going to score. You have to be able to minimize the errors, pitch well, and the offense has to consistently do its job. The White Sox can't take first or second in the division. Now we're moving on to the junk file. Folks, we're coming close to the end, but I'm not going to leave you hanging. The junk file. This week, on every podcast, we put something in the junk file. I usually stay away from people. All right? This week, a actual person is going in the junk file. Folks, this week, Charlamagne the God, you have been inducted into the River Street junk file. Welcome to the club. You have great company to back you up. Charlamagne the God, the most ignorant person with a microphone, the most incoherent individual on the planet with an outlet to spew his ignorance and negligence towards thousands of people. Now, Charlamagne the God, we don't hate you. We just don't like you. What you do in the media business on having a donkey of the day every day, 5 days a week, is a joke. Your show is a catastrophe. You got the slim fast guy over there. He looks like the fake Fat Joe, like the wannabe Fat Joe. You have him. You have yourself, who every time I listen to you, I mean, sometimes I think you're drunk or you've been drinking, had a couple shots before you went in and did your segment and put together your little show, if that's what you want to call it. You talk with a lisp, and you're just the whole time we're listening to you. You get these great artists. You've had Kanye in there. All these great artists in there. And you're a joke when they show up. But as soon as they leave, you get one of your writers over there. You get someone to write something nice for you. And then you spit your lick. And you feel good about yourself. But you just tear people down in order to build yourself up. You want to talk about Jason Whitlock, and you want to talk about, going after somebody who's fat. You want to talk about Christine Leahy attacking a woman? You're going after a woman? So to me, you're just a low ball, dirty, must I say, probably a musty dude, because you just look like you stink. You just look like you smell bad. And, I've seen your show before. I don't watch it. I don't listen to it because I know they do like the video cast and they have it on YouTube when it's done and everybody can go check it out. There's nothing I want to check out with your show, bro. I don't consider you relevant. Your time on the radio, iHeartRadio, it's coming to a close. It really is. You don't have a lot longer to go, so enjoy it while you're there. But this week, folks, Charlamagne the God is into the junk file. He is the ass of the day. He is the punk of the day. And, there's some other choice words we'd like to use. We're not going to use those words because we're adults here, unlike on his show when they call it The Breakfast Club. Let me remind you, there was a movie that came out called The Breakfast Club. It was all white people. So the biggest dude, the biggest critic of other races, the biggest racist, Charlamagne the God, who is the biggest racist out there, if you're not black, he hates you. So I really look at him as the biggest racist. And if you don't want to call it racism, you want to call it prejudice, I don't care. Doesn't matter to me. The guy's a joke. He's a half-ass broadcaster with a half-ass crew. And he's in there all day long sitting on his hands with his thumb up his ass. And he thinks like he's a big deal. But he's not a big deal. He's a clown. Charlamagne the God, they wouldn't even punk you because you're not worth it. Charlamagne the God in the junk file, everybody. We're moving on. Hidden gem of the week. Fair tax. The fair tax? Preston, what do you mean when you say the fair tax? Now, the fair tax, ladies and gentlemen, I want you to go and look at it. I want you to go and check it out. I want you to type in fairtax.org, FAIRTAX.org. Read up on the fair tax. Understand what the fair tax is. I'm all for the fair tax. It abolishes the IRS and it gets rid of the payroll tax. Those are the highlights, right? Those are the big highlights. It also helps businesses. It also makes filing your taxes a lot easier. And you also will not have to file your taxes if you're below the poverty line, which unfortunately a lot of us are. And we don't want to be there, but we're there. And knowing that we could be penalized for not filing taxes, knowing that we could be penalized for so many other things, the fair tax is comforting. It brings that comfort level back to the people. Check out the fair tax. Understand what the fair tax is. Make up your own opinion about the fair tax. Some people will say it's replacing the federal income tax with a national sales tax. And I will say to them, that is not all. There's more to it than that. Check it out for yourself. Read up on it. Accept it or dismiss it. It will be upon you. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes the River Street Podcast. This was episode number 18. Check out Facebook.com/River Street Marketing. Check out the YouTube page, Preston Olson. Instagram.com/Downtown Preston. And once again, ladies and gentlemen, just like the hands of time, I'm turning it over to you. Good night, everybody.